This
Yeah,
conference will now be recorded.
yeah. So in yesterday's class, we have seen like reading the CSV file and writing it to Excel into FTP, and reading the file CSV file from FTP and inserting into database. And in inserting also, we have seen how to insert using for each scope and how to insert bulk. So any doubts there? We can recap if anyone has any doubts. Did anyone try doing connecting to FTP and from reading the file? Did anyone try it on your own? Yeah, please do try it on your own, because it will there might be some while we are doing hands-on POCs, right? There might be some problems and we can solve them as and when we discuss. Okay. So if there are no doubts in yesterday's class, if at all anything has to be recapped and anything has to be just given overview, we can go. Otherwise, today we can see what are the concepts we can see.
Just once recap with the bulk insert, Nagirti.
Sure, sure. Let me pause and FTP read this one. So read insert DB. So yesterday we have seen like what we are doing, what we are trying to do is we are reading a file from FTP. So we are keeping a read connector here. So once we read it, so here we are saying employee data.csv. So what is that data there? Employee data. This one. So this needs to be going into our database. So for that, what we are trying to do, we are mapping it. So how we are mapping it? So the read output is in this format: ID, name, and status. Whatever we are trying to get from CSV file, this is our input and this is our output. So output here we have here we have a JSON object. So we have mapped like from this array to this array, we have mapped like, so whatever the data we are getting from this one, so how many records we have, that will be mapped into a JSON format in an array structure. So this array structure, this bulk array structure will go into this bulk insert connector. So here we don't need to give any payload like here, if you remember here, insert into generally what we'll do in named parameters, we will give emp underscore id and emp underscore name, emp status. But here and in the input parameters, we will write something like this: emp id equal. So we are assigning something. So this we have to do in the in this way we have to do in the insert shape, not in the bulk shape. So in the bulk shape, we can simply say payload, and we can say whatever the ID. So here, whatever the payload we are getting from the transfer message. So the output from the transfer message will contain the array of records consisting of ID, name, and status. So these records, so in this name only we have to give the named parameters here, and it will automatically take the values. So again, I can show you by running it. Debug, and what is the API? Right. Right. So here, let me remove this one. Okay. For my listener, let's see what is the base path. Base path is FTP API, and the subpath is right. That is right. And we are using this listener just as a trigger point. We are not giving this for any request body because our request comes from FTP. So no need of giving any request here. So I'm simply hitting this one with the URL, and this will be triggered. So after doing the reading, what is our payload? Our payload is in this structure, CSV format. After doing the transfer message, we are converting that CSV into JSON. So this is our JSON. So what does our JSON have? Our JSON have an array of records of this data. This is a record. In this record, we have 3 values: ID, name, and status. So this is another record. So here total we have 4 records. So these 4 records we have to insert in a bulk way. So that's why instead of giving the named parameters in different way, we have choose this one. Whatever the payload, in payload what do we have? ID, name, and status. So we have given the named parameters in a similar way: ID, name, and status. So if I do a bulk insert, that's all. So here you can see, you can just ignore it, bulk insert. You can see in our database. Let's see. (2000) series. Whatever we have given in the CSV file. Okay, this is how our bulk insert work. And if at all you don't want to use bulk insert, you want to use only single insert statement. For that, you can simply keep a insert statement and a for each scope. So in the for each, you will keep insert. That means for each our payload. So what is the payload of after our transfer message? This is a JSON structure, right? So for each record in this array, you will perform an insert. So single insert statement. Okay, so this will come you, suppose let's say if you're having, you know that in this business rule, you will have only 5 to 6 records at a time of execution, then you can go for each scope and insert statement. But you know that the client says that at the time of execution, you will get 100 records. And if you say you want to keep for each, then it will degrade the performance, right? It will go and insert one by one. It will take a lot of time and it will degrade the performance of our entire application. So in that case, you can use bulk insert.
Okay, Kirti.
Okay. Any other doubts here?
No, Kirti.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone has any doubts? Oh, I see Karthik has come. Sorry, Rakesh.
No, okay, it's okay. No,
Okay.
Priya. No, Kirti.
Okay. So let's go to today's class then. So until now, what we have done from the beginning of the development, we have seen how to develop APIs. So there are 2 types of developing. So one developing is API development. So how we have developed using listener. So we have exposed our entire application as an API and we are using it in Postman. Okay. And the second one which we have seen is triggering an Mule application using scheduler. So you have seen that in the source, I have given a scheduler. Without this listener, I am keeping the scheduler. Something like this. Something like this. So here we are setting the frequency, how many times it has to set and all. Now let's see how to consume this API. So we are I think in the beginning sessions I have told that APIs can be in the MuleSoft. We can do 2 things with the APIs. One is exposing APIs. And the second one is consuming APIs. So how to consume this API? So if at all we have developed one API, how to consume that API? I'll show you. Okay, let me stop this one. So let's take a scenario. Let's take a business scenario. So today we'll be seeing all this one: consuming a REST API with request body, consuming a REST API with request headers, and creation of variables. So in the first class, I think I have mentioned a term called variable. I told we will see in the next classes. So here today we can see creation of variable and what are the use of variable and how to utilize them. And also if at all time permits, we can see if else conditions also. So if there are any business rules and we have to perform any if else statements, you can see here. Okay, for the first one, for the consuming REST API with the request body, let's assume a business rule that that we are a HR system. Okay, and HR system. So whenever a client, let's say client has thing, client will say this is a requirement. First, we have to update the data database. Okay, and after updating the data in HR database, we also have to update data in finance database. So for updating the data in HR database, he will give the database details. So we have to use DB connector here. But for updating the data in finance database, he will not give the database details because of his constraints. Let's say he don't want to expose the finance database, because in finance database you will have all the payroll numbers and all the pay salaries and all. So he don't want to expose all the details to us. He will simply give an API, REST API. So using this REST API, we have to update the data in the database. Something like that, he will give a business scenario. So these are the two steps, two APIs which we have to use in our API, and this entire thing has to be exposed as an API. So requirement is expose an API with following functionalities. So we have to expose an API. So we have to give some URL to client, in which we have to use this one. We have to update database in HR data DB using DB connector, and then we have to consume a REST API. So REST API means we have to consume it. So how to do that one, we'll see. Let's say okay, this is our consume REST with body. So what is our first requirement? We have to go step by step when the requirements come. So expose an API. So whatever we need to do for exposing API, we will keep a listener. And if at all the client gives any details, you can give, or you can simply say your API. So you can, as I mentioned, we can go according to our standards, or if at all the client wants a particular name for the API, he will give it. So as of now, we will say EMP, and in the path I will give consuming, or I will say consume, because our API, or let's say this is client facing, right? I will say client. That's all. EMP client. So this will be used by our client. Okay, please stop me whenever you feel that I'm going too fast, or anything you are stuck. Okay.
Okay, Kirti.
Yeah. So until now it's clear, right? What is the requirement?
Yes, Kirti.
Okay. So after this one, this is our, let's say, entry log in client facing API. And now what is our next requirement? What is the next step in our requirements? Update the data in HRDB using DB details. So DB connector. So what we can do is we can simply say update. So here we have our default table. So we can use this table. So this is just for assumption. So let's say this is our HR table. Okay. Create a connection, Oracle connection, give the driver. Okay, and I'll say localhost, and my user is system, password, instance is test it, successful. Okay, and now what I want to try is, I want to let's say first we have to insert the database and then update it in the finance database. Let's say that one. So instead of updating here, we'll go and insert it directly. No need of updating. We'll just go and insert it. Okay. And here, what is our statement? Insert into EMP. What is our schema? This is the schema. EMP ID, EMP name, EMP status, values. I will give this one only. Named parameters. And I will give EMP ID equal to payload dot ID. EMP name equal to payload dot name. Okay, until now our first step is completed. So what is our first step? First we have to expose an API. We have done that. We have kept a listener. So whenever they say expose an API, we have to give the listener. And then we are updating the DB using DB connector. And then what we have to do is we have to update the data in finance DB. So let's say here they have given a REST API. So just for our understanding purpose, I have created a mock service. So when I say mock updation means it's not a real-time update. It simply say it will, whatever we give the data, it will simply say it will say success and it will give 200 for whatever the data I am giving. Okay, so this is the API I have developed just for getting the data, payload data, and I'll be just sending the response, whatever the data I'm giving in the payload. Something like this. Here, if at all I give 1000, it will say mock service invoked with request data 1000, name, status. So this is just for our understanding purpose. So this is a REST API I have used as an example, and I have deployed this into Cloud Hub. So no need to worry how to deploy and how to use this API, how to build this URL. No need to worry. We will see in the next coming classes. Okay. So as of now, just understand that this is a mock service. When I say mock, it is not a real-time API. It will not update anything in database, but simply it will just mock the data. It will just do the sample of data. So this is just a sample request and sample response. Okay. So this is, let's say we have to use this REST API in our Mule integration, Mule API. So how to use this one, we will see. So after insertion, what? Yeah.
Kirti, I have it.
Okay.
Here, logger is used to expose the API, right?
This one, right?
No, logger.
Logger. Logger is just for our purpose, like here, whatever we want to see in our console, right? That is just for our purpose to see the logs, whatever the data is coming. If you want to log any data, that's why we are using logger.
Okay, but in real time, it is not advised to use, right?
In real time, you can keep logs, but it is advisable, to reduce the usage of logs. Like you don't want to keep whatever the payload in the log, so that may raise some security issues also. Let's say that you are giving this entire data in the log, okay, and client will have some problems, like he don't want to expose that data to the outside world. So it is not a good practice to keep entire payload in the logger. But if at all, like if you want to have some entry points, like this is entry log, and you want to check whether the database connection is successful or not, so you can keep log after that. But minimal usages of log is advised.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, for developing purpose, like for like while developing your scratch development, right? So before giving it to client, you will develop from the scratch. At that time, you can keep any number of logs you want. But just before giving it to client, just you refine your process with removing unnecessary logs and keeping the meaningful logs, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what is our next step here? We have to consume our REST API. So how to consume it? Here you can see HTTP. So if you don't have any module here for HTTP, just I have shown you, right? In the add modules, you can go and search for the HTTP module and you can add it. So since most probably HTTP will be there in the default modules, so you can say HTTP and request. Okay, so just for iterating, for exposing an API, we have to use listener because it listens to the request. Anyone has questions?
Having a question here. Generally, we use the HTTP in the source tab, right? Not in other one.
Sorry, I did not get you. Can you repeat it, Devanand?
Like in Mule 3, we use HTTP protocol at the source tab in the application, integration application. I'm saying.
In Mule 3, you are saying.
Yeah, instead of listener, we can use HTTP, right?
So listener is for listening. I mean, it is for exposing API, Devanand. For consuming, we can use REST APIs, that is HTTP connector. So
Okay,
here
good.
you will have HTTP request. Okay, that one you can use.
Done.
Okay, this is just for your purpose for remembering without any confusion. So you can say this one. So after exposing, after insertion of data into database, we have to use our REST API. So what is our REST API? How to configure it? We have to create a connection and we have to give these details. So this is my REST API data. So let's have this one. So here client will say, so this is my requirement. So he will give the requirement document, something like this. So this is the requirement. Oh, sorry. So we have to update. So he will give this requirements and he will give this API details. So you will have this one. So one of the best practice to do before jumping into Mule development, right? Test whatever the API he has given. So whatever the API the client has given, test it in Postman, or if at all he is giving SOAP API, right? Test it in SOAP UI. So first it is advisable as an integration developers, right? We have to check whether the APIs given by the third party it is working or not. So before directly going and developing it in a Mule integration, first check in the that Postman or SOAP UI, wherever the API which is provided by client. So this is my API. So this is the URL and body and result. So you can simply test it if it is working or not. So if it is working, then you can go ahead and start Mule development. And how to start, how to give this one. So here in the HTTP, the base path. So you know base path, right? We have been creating. So this is our base path. You can say EMP and host. So as I mentioned in the first class, this will be our host. Unless until now, what we have done using localhost we have done. So what will be our host in the localhost? This is only the localhost will be our our host, and this will be our port. And since I have deployed this API. This is my host. Okay. So once deploying our process, you can understand what is the host and where to get it from Cloud Hub. So no need to worry about it now. You can simply say how to access this one, how to use this one. And port is 80. So by default for HTTP, it will be port will be 80, and for HTTPS, here you can select two, right? HTTP and HTTPS. Since my API is in HTTP, I'm using HTTP default. And if at all the client provided the API consists of HTTPS, your port will be 443. So that is nothing to remember. You can simply Google it. What is the default port for HTTP and what is the default port for HTTPS? So it's not, we don't need to remember anything there. And since my API will not have any authentication, I will keep everything as default only. No need to change anything, none. So everything will be as is. We simply have to configure this thing. What is the base path? What is the host? And what is the port? Click on OK. And then select the method.
8081 Kirti.
Sorry?
Really, we use the port number as 8081, right?
Yeah, I was about to tell you. So whenever we are developing, right? So whenever we are developing for the local host, it will be 8081. But if you deploy the same application in Cloud Hub, automatically when your project is deploying into the cloud, the port will be changed of HTTP to 80. Okay, while developing in the local only, it will be 8081. When you deploy, it will become 80 automatically. We don't need to change anything in our configuration.
Okay, Kirti, understood.
Okay, just for your purpose, I will mention it here somewhere. So here, local development host will be localhost and port will be 8081. And when it's deployed, host will become whatever the host we get it from Cloud Hub. So deployed host from Cloud Hub. So we'll see in the coming classes how to get this. And port, it will be default for HTTP, 80 HTTP and 443 for HTTPS. Okay. Clear until now? Any doubts? Okay. So once we configure this one, what is the next step we have to do? What is the method? So here, this API consists of method post. So you can select post here. It will come automatically. And subpath. So whenever it says path here, what is the subpath? So in the document, you can go and check what is the subpath. It is mock service. So you can give mock service. And here we are giving the data, we are giving the request in the body. So it will be as usual. Nothing to do here. Okay. Now let's see what happens and how the steps go and what we have to do. Let's see. So until then, let's create our API. So we have exposed an API here. So here we are consuming an API and as well as we are exposing our entire application as API. So we to trigger this Mule application, we have to again invoke our API. So for that API, what is our endpoint? Here, what have we configured? Let's see. It is emp/client. Here I have client. So since I'm developing this one, I will simply say localhost. I did not deploy it, right? So this is still in development phase. So I will have localhost 8081 and I will have emp/client because this application will be used by client. And my payload will be something like this. So whenever the client says you have to expose an API, right? So the next question which you ask is, whenever the client says requirement, he will simply say my source is this, my target is this. You have to ask two questions. One is, do you want to expose an API or you want to trigger it by your own? Okay. And if he wants to expose an API, you can ask the request and response structures. So how do you want your request should be? How do you want your response should be? In what format the request and response should be there? So you can ask him. he will provide. If at all he has some idea, he will provide, or otherwise you can suggest. Like if at all the fields are this one, so for this API you are giving ID, name and status. So I suggest that we can use JSON structure, since there are only few elements and it will be easy to access out also. So you can suggest on your own, and you can convince the client so which structure you can follow. And if at all the client has the technical expertise, he will suggest something, so you have to implement that one. Okay, now let's say I want to expose this API with the request of these fields in the JSON format, our normal format which I have been following, ID. So this has to be in double quote, and I'll have name. So whenever you are writing your JSON on your own, just go and write in the JSON format. So it is valid. So you can use this one. Okay, and let's see our whether it is deployed. Yeah, it is deployed. So let's trigger this one. So this is triggered. I kept breakpoint here. That's why I did not stop it here. It stopped directly at the insert. And what is our first log? Entry log in client facing API. So this is our client facing API. Okay. And now let's insert this one. So before inserting, let's check what is the data present in EMP. Okay, we do not have Kirti EMP name until now here. Let's insert this. Okay, let's check again. Kirti. So what is the first step we have achieved? We have inserted the data into HR database. Now let's say we have to insert the data into finance database using a REST API. So here, if you see, this is a REST API which has been given by the client. And what is the data? What is the request which he mentioned that? So this is the API, right? Mock service. So this expects this is as a request. This expects the request to be in this format. Okay, but what is our request here? What is our payload here? This is something like this. So everyone knows, right? Whenever any insert or update or delete or DML operations we are performing on a database in MuleSoft, the payload will be something like this: affected rows. So how many rows got affected? Since we are inserting one record here, it says affected rows equals to 1. But what does this API require? What does this API needs the request? This is the request it needs. So whatever the request we are sending in the main payload. So after doing the insert, our payload got changed. So how to retrieve the payload which we are getting in the beginning of the step? So that's why we use variables. Okay, this is the purpose of using the variables. So a variable can store whatever the payload we are giving at any point of the Mule application. So let's see how to create that one. I'll stop my execution here because anyhow it will fail. So for that one, you can say set variable. So immediately after our payload, right, you can say my variable is employee data. And here I will say payload. Please stop me if I'm going too fast. Set variable, set payload, or you can say save payload. EMP data where. Okay, what I'm trying to do is I am capturing the request data. So in our client facing API, so client will give this data. So I require this data for further execution of steps in MuleSoft. So I have to preserve this data. So how to preserve this data? I can use set variable, and I can use this variable in this next step. Okay, so let me show you before going to that step. So if how to access this variable. I will say logger. After setting the variable, I'm showing you how we can access the variable. So this is the data from variable. I will say here you can see vars dot emp data. So it will come automatically. So until now what we have done here, we have used payload. So instead of that, I'm giving variable data. Whatever the data we are setting in the variable, I'm showing you in the logger. Okay, let me show you that log. And how to see this variable in the Mule debugger, we'll see. Any doubts until here? Deployed. Let me trigger this one. Okay, so what is our first log? This our entry log is entry login client facing API. Now until now, what is our payload? Payload is whatever we are giving in the request body. Okay, and now I'm saving this entire request body in a variable. So let's see, after set variable, the variable is set. Okay, and now you want to see what is the data you have set in the variable. So in the Mule debugger, you can see vars. So there is one var, and you can see emp data var, whatever we have set in this one. So what does this contain? It contains the same payload. So if you want to use this payload, even after further executions, if you have even after 20 steps you keep after the shape, even after how many modifications of payload, if you don't have any payload, empty payload, but you want to use the payload which you have given in the beginning of the API. So this is our request. So for this one, you can store this entire payload in the variable, and you can use it in until this step. So if I see here, I will do next step. What is the log I'm printing? Data from variable is our data, request data. And now let's do an insert. So after insert, what is happening to our payload? Let's just check our payload. So it says it doesn't have any payload which we are given in the beginning of an API. So we do not have this request body. Instead, we have affected rows one. So how to get the request body which we have preserved? So still you can see variables will not be affected. At any point, variables will not be affected by the payload. Okay, using this variable, now we can use here. Now whatever we want to give, you can use in the payload. So here you want to say in the request body. So here you want to give the request body. So here, what is the request expected by this API? This is a request expected, right? But the payload is different. So simply you can do two steps here. In two ways you can do. What is the two ways is? One way is you can set payload. So you want to set the payload for this request. And what do you want to set? You want to set the variable value. Vars dot emp. Okay, what are we trying to achieve here? We are trying to achieve the initial request. So you can do in this way, or the other way is to just remove the set payload and simply setting the payload here itself in the connector. In the body, instead of payload, I will use vars dot emp data. Okay, by doing any of the two steps, we will get the payload as we have in the first step. So let's go with the first step now. So let me set the payload, and I will set what to vars dot emp data var. Okay, let me save it and debug. So this is the main use of variables. Okay, you can preserve whatever the data you want. You can use it wherever you want. Even in error handling, you can use in all the connectors. You can use the variables. So this is the main purpose of variables. No need to have the no need to rely on payload every time. Any doubts so far? Okay, let's see. This is one step and I'm setting the variable. So we can check here variables, EMP data, it contains all our request data. And after insertion, my payload changes, but my variable will not change. And after this one, I'm setting the payload. Now see, the payload got changed. So here my payload is same as usual. Whatever I'm setting from my variable data. Okay, and after this one, I will execute this one. So here, what is our body? Our body is payload, and I have given the path and the URL, whichever. So this URL is automatically found when we configure our consuming HTTP connection. So base path, host, port. Okay, let me send it. It got executed, and this is a response from that particular API. Success. Mock service invoked with the request data 123. Kirti. Status is yay. Okay. So here the requirement is achieved in two steps. First one is exposing an API, and the second one is both inserting the data into database using database connector and also consuming the REST API. Okay, anyone has any doubts while configuring this one using the variables and any doubts? Please let me know if I am going fast.
Kirti, it's okay.
Okay. So let's see how to use, instead of set payload, I will use, I'm using the second way. So instead of here payload, I will say vars.emp data. Okay, let's save this one, and I will give 456, and I will give one IT employee in progress, something like this. So this is, so let's see if at all this is getting updated in database or not. So that is also important. See, until now I have shown the execution 3 times. That's why the 3 1 2 3s are there. Now we don't have any. What is our API? 456. We don't have any 456 data. Let's see. I will trigger this one. Setting variable, logging. The second step is insertion. Let's check here. 456 180 employee I. Okay, and after this one, I have to give this one, REST API. So it also got succeeded, and you'll get mock service invoked with the request data ID 456 180 employee status ID. This means this API is also receiving whatever the data we are giving in the first step in the request. Okay. Any doubts so far?
Last one request the connector ones, what we configured there. Last one.
In the request one. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
here,
yeah.
no need to, no need to just confuse here. Whatever we are trying to, so in the listener, whatever we give, right? Here we give in the reverse way. So here we'll give the host. So whatever the host we will get from our requirement document, right? So here this is the API. So here what is the host? Whatever is before, okay, sorry. Whatever is before the colon, that is the host. So you can say from this colon, I will say this one. No need of giving the colon. So from here.
Base path, right? Nothing but base path we can call it.
No. This is the host. Base path comes after the port. So here I will give you detailed explanation. So Host means this one until IO before the colon. After the colon comes port. So what is the port here? 80. And after that port, we'll have a slash, and here you can see base path.
Okay.
This is the base path. Base path is EMP. And what is our EMP? And what is the subpath here? mock service. Okay. So this, if you try to understand what is the API, and we have to just decouple the API, and we have to understand these four. Then it is easy to configure this one. You will select the protocol, and you will select host. So what is the host here? You will give this one here. What is the port? 80 you will give, and click on OK. And after this one, it will ask for the method and path. So method, it will also be provided in the requirement document. So what is it, post or get, whatever it is, it will be given. So you will select that one. And the path, you will give this one, subpath, mock service. So after configuring this one, you can give, so based on which one. So the API, so the first API which we are discussing is getting the request from the body. That's why we are doing all the changes in the body. And in the next case, you can see how to achieve the data, how to get the data from URI parameters. I will show you there. No need to worry. Okay, and the rest everything can be kept in default. No need to worry about them. Okay, this is the configuration of request. Okay, any questions?
No, Kirti.
Okay, everyone is clear, right? I can explain it again if anyone has any clarifications.
Yeah, please click on variable once again. Sorry, configuration I want to see.
Sure, Bhimeshwar, no problem. So here, I think you have come in the middle, right? So I'll just explain. So this is the request, we are consuming this one. And the variable here, we are trying to preserve the data, whatever we are preserving. So from the request body, right? We are setting the variables. How to set the variable? Give it a name, and in the value, whatever you are trying to set the value. So this is the payload. So here, in the first step, so in the request from the listener, you will get the payload as this one. Whatever this is the payload, right? We'll get this one. So I'm just saving this in a variable. I can use this variable in further executions. Whatever the payload may be changed, the variable data will not get changed unless and until you are doing some operations on it. And here, instead of payload, there are multiple operations also. Like if you want to give static data, you can just remove this function and you can give static data, something like this. My name is Kirti. Something like this. Whatever you want, it depends on your requirement. And if you want to give any payload or attributes, so any value from the mule, you have to give the function, and you should select, you can write this one, payload. Okay, and to use this variable, we have to use vars dot emp data var. So where if you just click on vars dot, it will come automatically what are the variables present.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions so far?
Okay, that's thank you.
I'm stopping this one. So let's see. Today I won't be going for if else because it will become a too much of load. I'll just explain you. So I have explained you the request body and creation of variables and utilizing the variables. Let's see how to invoke an API with the request headers. So until now we have used first API which requests the body request in the body. Now let's see, there is this one more API. There is one more mock service I have created just to update, like this is just mocking, right? We are not doing in the real database. So this will get the data and it will print it here. So how it will accept two URI parameters. So as I have mentioned earlier, I will just give a background here. So URI parameters means it will have a slash, and query parameters means it will have a question mark. Okay, so how to retrieve this values and how to set these values while invoking or while consuming an API, we'll see. So let me just close this one and I will say create a Mule project. This is consume. I will say rest with headers and I will say you are a header. Okay, and this one also I will keep a listener as a trigger point because we want to give whatever we want to, like suppose if I want to give the data here, but let me just explain. So what is my requirement here? I have to use the same thing. We have to do the same things but in a different way. My requirement, second requirement is expose an API with the following functionalities. We have to give a URL to client, and what is the request? I'm getting this request in JSON format in the body. Okay, this has to be, and the response is whatever the response we are getting it from the second REST API. Okay, and we have to use this body, so we have to use this ID and status, and we have to give into this REST API using headers. Consume using URI headers. So let's see how we can do that. First steps are common, so we can simply say logger and just configure this one. I will give base path is emp, and this is what have I given here? Client, right? I will give client dash or dash URI header. Okay, this will have the body and the method is post entry log of client API is triggered. And after this one, I will just, let's say, update now. So I will update the database now. So what is our business requirement? Let's say we have to update the we have to update the data in HRDB. So earlier in this step we have done insert. This was insert. We did the insert. Now we want to do an update. So in the earlier sessions we have seen like how to update it. It is very simple. Oracle connection. So for each project you have to give this one separately. Localhost 1 user system password. Successful. And what are we trying to do? Update emp set. What do you want to set? Let's say from the request. Sir, this is our request. We want to set the ID. Set ID equal to, I will give a parameter here. Emp underscore ID. Okay. Where, or you can say set, let me see what was the query I have written. I think I'm doing something wrong. I think I have it. Update set status. So instead of setting status, I'm just setting the ID where I will set status now. Status equals to whatever the status we are getting it from our payload. EMP status. Okay, and here I will give parameters. EMP ID equals to payload dot. So what does our payload contain? This one, right? This one. Payload dot ID. So here we have ID. That's why I'm giving payload dot ID. And EMP status payload dot. So after updating, I want to call my REST API. So I will give HTTP request. And here how to configure this one in the same way. Base path. So first we have one more. I have given this one. So this is my second mock service. So I will give, this is my host. This is my port 80. And what is my base? It is EMP again. I think somebody has something. Awesome. Okay. Sure, Bhimeshwar. As I think she was already mentioned, tomorrow and day after tomorrow are holiday. So 14th and 15th. And
మీకు వచ్చేసరి జనవరిలో అని చెప్పినట్టు రాలేదనుకో మళ్ళీ ఎట్లా మీరు అంటే తేజ మీరు చెప్పినారు రాలేదు
hello.
అదేంటి మళ్ళీ అడుగుతారు సో
Hello, Devanand, are you talking? I'm unable to hear actually
Yeah,
clearly.
no. It's just by mistake my mic got unmute.
Okay, no problem.
I was in another meeting, so
Sorry?
I'm having another meeting, Kirti, so that's the reason
Okay.
I just by unmuted.
Okay. So you want to jump off?
No problem, Kirti, I can manage. But the thing is, you said that after 14, like tomorrow and day after tomorrow is all day, and again 16, 17 is Saturday, Sunday. Will there be classes
Yeah.
from 16 or else?
So it's actually based on your availability. So if all of you are having any vacations planned and if you don't want the classes, we can stop. And if you have some time, you can plan for the assignments. I can give you assignments. So it's your
Yeah,
wish
Kirti,
actually.
actually, the thing is from 16 to 19, I won't be available. I'm most probably on 20th also because I'm going out of station on those days for 4 days.
Okay.
So it
So
depends
you.
on the majority. I'm not the individual, right? So depends on the majority.
Yeah. So guys, please let us know like whoever is available and how many people, like Bhimeshwar has dropped out, right? So tomorrow and after tomorrow is holiday, and based on all of your guys availability, we can plan for assignments and all.
Yeah, but the thing is, Kirti, even if you give assignment, I cannot able to do it because I won't be
Okay.
available.
Yeah, you can do it on your own, but try. I mean, since you're going out of station,
Yeah, I
you
will
can.
try this when I get the time, but in these 4 days, I cannot able to do it.
Okay, that should not be a problem. What about the other people, Rahul, Karthik, Rakesh?
Yeah, Kirti, I'm also not available till 19th.
Oh, is it? Okay, let me
Yeah.
check that.
So it will not till 19th Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. You'll be.
Yeah.
Oh, no assignments.
I'm
I
going.
understand that's a
Yeah,
long
I'm going
weekend.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you can
Okay.
keep on Saturday, no problem. Because I'm going Sunday. Because it most probably for 2 days. Because for 20 I will be back.
20 you will be back. Okay. I think who has Devanand also
Yeah.
told 20 you will be back. And
Yeah, Kirti.
what about the other people, Karthik and Rahul? Okay.
Yeah,
Because I'm
Kirti,
going
for
to
me, no problem. Whenever it is, even if Saturday, Sunday also fine for me. I don't have any problem. Based on your majority people, I think we can go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
Kirti,
that's
myself, Karthik. I'm also available at any time.
okay. Then it's a draw then. Both of the two of the people are available and two of them are not available. And we should have spoken this in the beginning only when Bhimesh were available. Okay, let's see. So I think after this class, I will discuss with Shiva once, and I will ask Bhimeshwar also whether if at all he's available or not. And I don't think we should keep the classes on until Tuesday because no one is available, and I think this is a long weekend and everyone is going for a vacation, right?
Yeah, Kirti. It will be better now for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. And tomorrow is a festival. Friday, is anyone available?
Yeah, I'm available, Kirti. Okay, that's based on that's fine. Kirti. Even if you keep the class from Tuesday, also not a problem for me.
Okay. Then it's
Yeah, I
fine.
already said I'm available.
Yeah. Thank you, Karthik. Let's do one thing then. So I think majority of the people are on vacation, right? So I mean, as of now, two people are available and two people are not available. Let's ask Bhimeshwar also once, and most probably we'll continue. We'll resume on Tuesday itself because anyhow
Yeah.
it is
I
a
checked with
festival.
him, Kirti. Just now, I checked with him. He's okay from Tuesday also. But he's asking for the, I think, document running notes and some questions and some daily class notes
Sure.
or
I
something.
will email everyone. I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
Yeah,
email all
Kirti.
the notes.
Want to request you to send the notepad file also, na, Kirti, which you generally prepare on daily basis.
Sure. I will send you.
Because the thing is, when we are doing practicing, we have to check each and everything by pausing the video, and it's taking a too much long time for that.
Okay, no problem. On the daily basis, I will be sending you whatever I note, right? So on daily
Yeah.
basis, I will be sending you so that it will be good for your practice. It can help you.
Okay, Kirti. Thank you so much, Kirti.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then let's proceed. And anyone, so all of you guys have 5 more minutes, like until 12:45. I can complete this one.
Okay, Kirti, no problem. You can continue.
Yeah. So what were we trying to do? We are doing the URI use case. So here we have to consume this API with URI headers. It will consume URI headers. So how to do that one? You can simply say here path. In the path, what is the path? URI mock service. I will give URI mock service. And as you all know, URI parameters will not have any key value pair. Only the query parameters will have the key value pair. So here I will simply say one ID and what is the thing next to you? Status. Okay. And now I want to give some value to these two URI parameters. So what I can do is here I will say I will not give any payload for the body because it doesn't require any payload. It requires only URI parameters. So here you can give key. What is our key here? ID. And what is our value here? I will get the value from. So here again. So this is where we have to again set the variables. So until now I will just give payload dot ID. Or let's use, okay, I will show you this one and the status payload dot status. Okay, so as you all know, after updating or after inserting, after deleting, the response will be changed. I mean the payload will be changed. So for that only we've been using variables. So what I will do is set variable and I will save the initial request. So what is our data? emp data where, and what I'm saving into this one? Payload, the initial payload. And I will use this one set emp data. So it is good practice to keep in the display name also what are you trying to set the variables, because if you have 10 to 15 variables in the entire your Mule integration project and you don't know where what variable you are setting, so for that it will be easy if you give a display name with the emp with the variable name which you are defining. Okay, and after this one, after updation, we will use this one. So how to do set payload as we done in the same earlier process. And what are we trying to set here? Vars dot ml. That's all. In the request, what do we do? So this is our request, and the URI parameters I have given ID status as payload.id, payload.status. So this will go. This ID and status will go. Okay, let's execute this one. And I think I have changed this API. Let's see. Client URI header. I will give client URI header. And the request body will be same. And what is the method? Method is post. That's it. Let me just keep a breakpoint. Yeah. Deployed. Let me trigger it. Triggered. What is the payload? Check here once. Payload is our request payload. I'm setting the variable, and now the variable contains our request payload itself. So whatever the data, we have it here. Now update. Okay, status is invalid identifier. What is this? Sorry, here our query is this one, right? Sorry for that. Set emp ID. Set emp ID, set emp status. Sorry for that. Let me just save it and run it again. Okay. Setting the variable and updating it. It is taking some time to update. Let's see what is happening. Let's see. Sometimes, as I mentioned, update will be, so if there are multiple connections all around with this database, it will not perform the update. So it is better if you close all the connections, okay? And if you can check the payload also here, like what are we trying to give? And payload dot ID 456, so everything is coming. Payload dot status is coming. Okay, you can do one thing here. So we can stop this one, and I will close all the connections to this database. Disconnect. Genius. I'll disconnect. Now let's try it again. It is better if we close this one and open it again because of the cache problem. So if we have multiple projects and multiple things opened up, sometimes Mule will behave in a strange way. So you can just double click it to open and try to run it again. Let's see now. See now it got updated. So whenever you see this problem that update is taking a longer time and it is not giving any error, so just close all the connections to that database and just refresh your project like closing it and opening it. It should be fine. Okay. And now you can see affected rows 2 because I have 2 rows. I think for with this what is the query we have written? We have written where EMP status equals to status. So where EMP status equals to I. So how many statuses we have? Something like that in this one. I will do this one. So we have I and I, 2 records. That's why 2 rows got updated. Okay. Then now what? So we have to change this payload. That's why I'm using the variable as in the previous process. Now my payload is the same thing. And I will send a request. Method not found. Let's check whether this method is not there or not. Get. Okay, here this error will come if at all we are giving the method wrong. So what is the method which the mock service has? It has post. So I will give post. Okay. And I will just send it again. I will give you this mock services also. It should work for you too. So no need to worry. You can just consume it. I will give all the details which is post and what is the thing and all. Okay. Send. There. Update. 2 rows updated. Request. It is sent. So mock service invoked with request ID 456. Status is I. Employee resigned. So this is a static value I just kept. So this is the thing. So it got successfully invoked, the mock service. Okay. Any doubts here? So if you can see the request data, whatever the request data is going across through the database and also it is coming for the API. These 2 values in the response are dynamic. Whatever we are giving it in here, it will come in the response. So let's say I will give 12300 and status as R. Okay. And do we have any R's here? Yeah, we have one R. Send. Update. And here you can see affected rows only 1 because in our database we have R with only 1 record. And send. Mock service invoked with the request data this one and status as R. Okay, I hope this is very clear. Any questions guys here? If there are no questions, we can wrap this session up and let's meet on Tuesday.
Wednesday, I think so, because till 19th we won't be available now.
Till 19th, so is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we should meet on next week then. Okay. I hope it will be very fresh on the next week for everyone. Okay. If everyone is okay with the Wednesday, then I think we can meet on Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Okay, good. Done.
Yeah, everyone is okay with that, right? I see Rahul and Karthik.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, Rakesh and Karthik. Okay. Okay, guys. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I will be sending this week's daily data, the daily notes, to your email addresses. And if at all you have any doubts, please reply to me. And I have asked Shiva to create a WhatsApp group, and I will check with that. So let's see. Okay.
Okay, Kitty.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good day. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Good. Happy
Thank
Sankranti
you.
advance.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.